Welcome back to the Innovation Room. We're glad to have you here with us today. This is episode 13, and today we're going to be discussing crucial communication, that oh so important relationship between vendors and clients. And we all kind of saw this come into play last year when people were sourcing different types of products that they had never needed before, and we still see it this year with the logistics issues that we're having and supply chain issues. So I'm here with my co-host Rhianon Huff today, and then we have a very special guest on the show as well. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop into the episode. Now introducing our special guest, Jessica Fumo. Jessica is the manager of facilities at Removery, the leading specialty tattoo removal company in the U.S., longtime facility management professional with a strong background in operations, recipient of the Prism but now Connects Young Professional Award in 2019, and she's also the co-chair of the Women in Action Committee for the Connects Foundation. So let's welcome Jessica to the show. How are you?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about what you do and about your background in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So this is my 16th year in the industry, which makes me feel really old. But I started right out of college, not even really understanding what facilities was, and just really loved it from the get-go. So I've only been with two major billion-dollar companies, which was Dress Barn, then Party City, and led me to my latest journey, which was a Removery. I started in late 2019, which, like you had mentioned, we are the world's largest tattoo removal and fading company. We just opened up our first location in Australia, so we are globally building and growing. And it's been a beautiful journey, really, because when you think of tattoo removal, like for me, it was just, oh, okay, we're gonna get that, the tattoo that you got on your lower back, we're going to get that removed, or, the mistake you made when you were 17. And there's just so much more to it. Their mission, I really believe in, we change people's lives every day, whether you were, incarcerated or you were involved in sex trafficking and you were branded and a gang, like we help you remove that. We get rid of that memory. And, it changed how I felt about people with tattoos and what we do. So it's been really great. We've been growing like crazy, which is wonderful. Rebranding, all big things happening with Removery, honestly. And when I'm not working with Removery, I am a mom of three. I call myself the chief chaos coordinator. And I'm either on a soccer field, a softball field, running in them somewhere as an Uber driver. They keep me busy, and that's honestly what I live for. I love it. I complain about it all the time, but I love it. There's no other place I'd rather be. And so that's really a little bit about me and Removery and where it came from and how I started. And it's a fun journey being in facilities. That's all.
Yeah, no, definitely. I know. I remember my mom used to say she was the taxi, so I just thought that was a little interesting. You're now the Uber driver, so
Yep, I'm the Uber driver,
generations are
and I don't
changing.
even get tips. I don't get tips. Nothing.
Ooh,
Nothing.
5-star review.
I have to clean up their messes. They're horrible.
Oh. All right. Well, yeah. So
talk about facilities coordinator for sure.
So our first topic, we're kind of going to go over what happened when the pandemic all first started. And we're going to talk about this very shortly, but we still feel it's worth touching on because this is when, that client vendor relationship really came into play. We saw a lot of things change very fast, and you really needed to have somebody in your corner to be able to help you out when you needed help. So I guess overall, businesses with a positive vendor client relationship, we feel they benefited from this. Jessica, is that something that you saw when this all happened, or something that you feel is, true?
Yeah, I totally agree. When this all started to happen and everything became PPE, everything, and nothing was available, and it was really difficult to even know where to begin, because for us, we didn't have PPE, like, besides the basic things that we should have just from being, tattoo removal. But I found that the vendors that I had met along, the years that I've been doing this, they were all really helpful. And I think because my something that I really cherish and I like to live by that with my work is I'm very honest and I'm very real. I'm not going to, accept your email or call and be like, yeah, I'm going to give you the whole fleet tomorrow. Just, give me a call back. I don't like to lead anybody on. I just like to be real, like you could start out this way, I'd love to just be connected with you. I like to get to know you as a person. And I think that connection that I've been able to build with suppliers through Connects and other, forums had really helped me. Specifically, like I needed thermometers, I needed like hand sanitizer, the shields, the everything really. And I used LinkedIn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
For putting the word out there and seeing who's using what. And I had vendors come through that normally never touched PPE, or my vendor that handles lighting and energy, right? He's the one who got me my thermometers. So it was really helpful to just have those solid relationships, and know that hey, I'm still not working with you right now, but there's a clear line of communication, knowing that right now isn't the best opportunity for us to be partnered together, but I still want to be connected with you, and I hope it's vice versa, just so down the road we can reconnect when needed.
Yeah, so like the longevity of these relationships built in the beginning of everything, kind of played out through the entire, well, I guess we're still in it technically, but through the pandemic, through needing all these resources, and that's going to lead to a further relationship that could possibly play out afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. I was able to trust, hey, you came through for me and I really appreciate that. And down the road, I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah. I guess so from our end of it as a vendor, I know first thing we did is we emailed all of our current clients. When we knew that we were going to be manufacturing some sort of PPE, we wanted to make sure they were the first priority because they're our existing clients. And then we brought it to things like LinkedIn, Connects forums and stuff to try to let everybody know, hey, we're going to do as much as we can to help out. Let us know if you need any help, stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I think these relationships were built before, but I think it was, I guess, just brought to light and really shown how important they actually are. Do you feel that you've made new relationships that you will continue after this is all said and done?
Yeah, and I was going to say too, on the flip side, I was able to see who did not come through for me, which I know is usually not talked about much. But there were some eye-opening experiences where, 2 weeks before the pandemic, this company or person or salesperson, business development, whatever, was all for business and doing this and doing that. And then when I had tried to discuss with them, hey, we need this, it was, I got ignored, or my emails weren't answered. It's kind of like, well, wow, it's nice to see, true colors on both sides, right? Because that's one thing I tried to not do on the flip side is, when you are reaching out to me, I don't want to, not respond to you. And I try to at least say like, hey, it's not a great time right now, or, I'll keep your info, or so it helped. It was, it went both ways for that.
It's interesting that you say that, and even how you brought up that one of your vendors that was, I think you said, lighting and energy ended up, providing you with thermometers. And that's kind of what we recognize too, is, on both ends, like you said, you had some that stepped up and kind of adapted and maybe helped those out that, everybody held hands and said, let's get through this. We really don't know how we're going to do it, but let's do it. But seeing how others have adapted their business and helped provide, those clients with things that they wouldn't normally have in their toolbox, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting to see that you noticed that as well. And have those relationships, like you said, that they continued and continued, adapting.
Well, so like we mentioned in the beginning, we don't want to talk about COVID, this whole thing of the pandemic. Everybody's done that. But these relationships were way more important, or just as important, before this all happened. So moving on to the next topic, let's just get into a little more of what makes these relationships so important and how that benefits your business.
So, like you said, moving on from the pandemic, we all know that having good, solid vendors is a crucial part to a functioning business. I like to look at it as, basically an extension of my business, a partner, and not just somebody, not just a vendor, a partner. and somebody that I can always rely on. So why is a healthy vendor client relationship so important in business that you think, Jessica?
I think it's, partial, like what you just said, where you're an extension of my company. And I feel like my primary vendors right now, they are that. I don't consider them like, hey, you're that vendor. Like I feel as if they work for Removery. They're here with us. And it's just great to have, like you said, someone in your corner, because like when things go, like facilities is a really fast paced world. And on my side, everything is, I find myself, I do apologize a lot, like, hey, sorry for the short notice, but I feel like that's what it always is.
Yes.
So when you have that partner that understands, like, hey, this is one, it's the business. Two, I know you're a great partner, and I'm transparent, I'm real with you. I know they're gonna be there, and they're gonna perform for me. So maybe they're gonna push someone else aside for a day just to come through for me. And that's really like, it's that gray area of, do we cross that line of moving things around for this, for Removery, for Jess. And I really feel like that it's important, because once you get that connection, and you're partners, and you're not just vendor versus retailer, you have someone that's there to work so much harder for you. And there's respect on both levels, right? I respect you, moving mountains to get this done for me. And I'm not going to forget that. And, I might give you more work because of that, or I might, just partner better with you. So I just feel like it is really important just to have that, the connection, and, knowing that you're more of a partner, and you're working for me and the company I am, and I'm not just some statistic, some number, some dollar sign. That's what means
Absolutely.
most.
I completely agree with that. And like you said, being in the facility industry, it's kind of just, I want to say, the nature of the beast. We tend to be a reactive reactive industry versus proactive. We try to be as proactive as we can, but I mean, we have emergencies daily, whether it's a toilet overflowing, a roof leaking, or a sign falling off the wall, for, in our case. But with that, having that person in your corner, you have that mutual, like you said, respect, but also goals. When you're successful, I'm successful. When your company is working, it's our company is working. So having that healthy vendor client relationship, can you expand on that a little bit more, how it can be beneficial to both sides?
I think it's beneficial as far as, like you just said, like if I'm successful, they're successful. And to give an example, right now, I had a situation where, you understand, I understand facilities and the needs, but other people within the company that don't know facilities, or don't understand, hey, we need to build a new room within the space, and it needs a door, but we want it done tomorrow. Or, it's like, well, if you're building something, we may need a permit, we may need to do this, we have to manufacture this. So there's a lot of departments that don't understand everything that facilities does. And one thing that I take pride in is, I know my vendors are there for me. And so I can always go back. And I just had this happen with my primary vendor. And I was like, listen, I need to get this done fast. Like, I know it's typically not going to be, a 2-day turnaround, or whatever the case is, but I really want to show you off, which then shows me off with me having that good relationship. And I think that's one of the major benefits too, is, like you just said, it's making me look good, but you're looking really good in the process, right? Like, hey, I used you to get this done. And, my ops team is really happy that it only took 2 days instead of the 3 weeks we thought.
Absolutely. That's a great example. And with having somebody in your corner, also, it's that, I guess, stress off your back, where we do have stressful, busy jobs, and there's constantly things that we weren't expecting flowing in. So having that person or that team in your corner to know, hey, I'm going to make your job a little bit easier, and I'm going to make, vice versa. You have that. It's just, you walk into work every day kind of with just that comfortable feeling. And it's a better way all around to move forward. So
they
Yes.
know the expectations too, right? Like they know what I want, need, and how I like it. Sometimes better than I even know. Like they'll be like, "Oh, we did this way because we," and I'm like, "Oh, my thank you." You know, like I may have forgot that in the busy world of whatever, but since they are such a good partner, they're like, "Here, we already knew this is how you wanted to see it. This is what you wanted. Here you go." And that is super helpful. And that's only when you have that relationship that, you know, it is a partner. So that's a total benefit to add on to what we were just talking about.
Kind of that, from what you're saying, you remind me of, kind of that old school relationship, where sometimes we've gotten away from that a little bit more with technology and kind of, the emails and digging deep into that relationship and what that means of having somebody that can anticipate your needs before you really even anticipate your needs. I guess you don't even realize how important that is until you don't have it or something happens. And
Yeah.
it's just so amazing to go into that. And I've definitely experienced that. So it's a really good point that you bring up. So overall, we've discussed that having a healthy relationship with client and vendor is so important, and just the health and over growth of overall, the business in general. So next we're going to dive into how we can maintain these long-term relationships or partnerships.
So I think the best way to maintain the relationship is honesty. And like I had mentioned earlier, I really, really try to be transparent and real with everybody because I'm going to be real right now. One of my first bosses, you know, he was, you know, in the facilities world for a long time, and he did not have like great relationships with vendors, and he treated them very different than, you know, what I do now. And I think it was because of what I was able to see, and I didn't like it. And I made my own, you know, my own personality with people, and how much I enjoy people, I think had helped me grow with that. And that's what made me really see, like, I want us to have a long lasting relationship. And I don't want it to be where, like, I'm just calling you once in a blue when I need something. I want it now and I want it 50% off. And then, you know, and that's it. It has to be mutual. And if I respect you, you're going to respect me. And that's the type of relationships that I want. So I think honesty is critical. I think just checking in and making sure, like, you know, even during COVID, I know we're not, you know, COVID, but you know, I had so many people on the vendor side just either text me, message me through LinkedIn, email me like, hey, just want to check in. How are you? How's your family? And vice versa. I did the same thing. Holidays, I like to, you know, vendors, suppliers that, you know, have been with me for 10 years now, you know, happy Easter, Merry Christmas. You know, I think that really builds on the, you know, client, you know, vendor retailer relationship. And it helps. And as you in the future, and just, you know, keeping connected.
Well, and that transparency that you talk about too is so critical. And I always run things that way too. Because here's the thing, being real, in our industry, things happen. Things happen that we didn't foresee, and sometimes what we didn't want to have happen. And it's going to go better if you pick up that phone, talk about communication, pick up that phone and say, look, this is not what I wanted to have happen, but here's the situation and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Or here's what we're going to do, the next step, versus keeping that person in the dark. And then they find out from somebody else and that there's a mistake. And instead, you already have the heads up, something's gone wrong, which happens again more frequently than we would like in this business. But at the same time, you always, somebody that's got your back and is working on that problem and working to resolve it. Because yes, we have that relationship, we have that trust to keep moving forward, and we want to make sure that this is resolved for that person, just as if they were a best friend who something happened to their house, or whatever it may be. We want to make sure it's taken care of for them, and not just for the job or the company, but for them as well.
Yeah, and mistakes happen. Nobody's perfect. And that's something that I have always said to, you know, my vendor team. I would love for it to be perfect, but I understand in this industry it's not. And I think it's really all about how you react to the mistake, right? Like you said, if you don't say anything and then I find out like a week later from, my executive that went to go visit, I'm not going to be happy. And I don't think anyone in that situation would be happy. I would much rather the honesty and us having that relationship and trust for you to be like, hey, this got messed up. This is what we're going to do right now to fix it. And that's, it happens. And it's real life here. It's not, a fantasy land. And I do try to say that too to other people that are not in the facilities world. So if it is someone in a different department in my company, well, what happened? Oh, this broke in shipping. Like it happens, you can't control that, you can't control the uncontrollable.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's what we're doing to get it fixed.
So with that, it kind of flows right into, thinking of what are your best practices in regards to communication? I mean, what do you expect versus what tips do you have for, those of us who, are communicating with vendors daily?
So what tips? I mean, besides like the normal, I think something else that I do, even if you're not a primary, just anyone that's getting work orders or something, I like a weekly check-in. That's something that I like to have all my vendors do, whether it's a report, like just send me something every Friday, or let's just put 30 minutes on the calendar. And if it gets canceled this week and we have it next week because there's nothing really to chat about, like that's fine, but at least you stay connected. Because I think when it's just, the wheels are moving and things are going, whether good or there's a hiccup or whatever it is, but you don't have that talk or that dedicated time to be like, let me look at what you got. Like you can talk to me about your concerns, and just having that weekly connection, it helps. And that's definitely a tip that someone told me once to do, and it helped. And I'm like, oh, it brought more awareness to things that were going on with work orders or the team, or, and it makes things more personal too. Which is nice, like with tips too, as far as like staying connected, like I had mentioned before, like with the holidays. I love Christmas time, New Year's, I send out like a mass email. And do I blind CC? Yes, because I have so many people I can't send individual emails to, but like I always at that time take time to just, hey, thank you for everything for this year. Like, you are my partner. I appreciate you. I value you. I wish you and your families happy holidays. Like that means something to me. Like it's not fake. It's not, coming just because it's the end of the year. Like it's very genuine for me. So I think just be kind. Like there's a tip, right? Like retailers are not, we're not gods. We're people, just as the supplier side, you're people. Like let's just be kind and respectful, and that's really
Human.
all I can say. And you communicate. Yeah, you communicate, and it's just things are going to be a lot easier for you that way.
Yeah, this is something I brought up when we were talking about like what young professionals can know going into the industry, and it's just to be human to one another. Like treat everybody like a person. Don't be afraid because like they've been in the industry maybe 20 years longer than you, or they have a position that's higher than you. Because none of that matters when it's just talking or communicating. Like be human. Obviously, don't let people walk over you if they're not treating you as a human. But that's the kind of stuff that really builds this trust, because it has to be genuine or you're not going to have a good relationship. If you're trying to fake it or you're trying to pretend, most people can see that really easy. And it's the same as a car salesman pitch. Like, that guy just wants you to buy this car. He doesn't care if it runs after you leave. Like,
Yeah.
you can't have that in our industry, because then you don't get anything. These relationships are also, I'd like to mention, just not important with your current vendors or current clients. Anybody at any time can go to another company. So anybody could be a potential client. They could become a client tomorrow if they leave their company and go to one of the companies that you work for. Or I've seen people switch from the vendor side to the client side and back and forth and vice versa. Um, our company and Jess's company don't work together, but I've known her for years, and that was through Connects. And she was fun and she's funny, so it was easy to want to, try to build a friendship. But it's worked in so many other ways, and like you get these opportunities, like we're doing here, trying to educate other people just by actually building a real relationship.
Well, Dan, I'm going to tell you. So I've used how I really first remember you. I used as an example when I did a Connects interview. it was the quick connect, and my line was like wrapped around like the building, and I was just going, and you sat down and handed me a water, and I will never forget that. You're like, here's 2 minutes for you to just drink a water, take a break. And I was just like, wow, who are you? Like, this is amazing. Like, you know, you weren't there to be like, here's my 2-minute sales pitch, like, come hire me. Like, you were just like, hey, I saw your line was really long, here's a bottle of water, like, chill out for 2 minutes. And I like that was, and I think that was amazing. Like, that's awesome.
I think I might have asked how your day was going, but
Did we just become best friends?
From that moment, I was like, wow, like, that was really cool. Like, that to me is genuine, and that is what matters most to me.
Realness.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how do you establish, you know, a process of, I guess, evaluating, you know, vendors? And, you know, it begins with that relationship, but obviously to continue the relationship, you know, checking in regularly is huge. And I think that's a big tip, you know, for everybody, because not only it's that comfort level, you know, whatever is on the vendor's mind, but also, I mean, you got tons of project that you're working in. If you have that nice quick check-in, it increases that comfortable, you know, feeling, and then decreases that stress level that, you know, okay, this week, check that off the boxes, we're good to go. But obviously for the long-term process and determining goals and plans for the future, do you have like an evaluation process or anything that you would continue, you know, with?
Well, the nice word that you used there was you're comfortable. So I have used, you know, vendors for many, many years. And just recently, you know, I'm meeting new people, but it's hard to, you know, say, hey, like, just jump in and let's go. But it's like, it's a slow process. You start with second opinions, you start with that, and then you get them in. And COVID was a nice example of, you know, all these people that came through for me, that I do want to give work orders to right now. And let's start like this relationship. And to evaluate that, it's not so much like, hey, I'm doing a bid, but it's, you know, I have to do my job, whether I think you're wonderful and your company's wonderful, and, you know, you do come through for me all the time. I still have to do my job for my company, which could be cost savings. It could be, you know, I want to lower my average ticket for each work order under 500 versus 500 to 1,000. So even like a primary vendor that I have right now, I'm comparing apples to apples, and and I have to be able to, hey, like, here's what I'm looking at. I will not go back to my boss and be like, you know, hey, I got two opinions, but, you know, I like so and so better because she's really cool. But, you know, this person credible, like, they're great, they're a good company, and they came in 15% less, right? So I still have to do my job, and I will never ever let that line get blurred of, yeah, you're a great person, yeah, we have fun when we went to dinner at the Connects, you know, conference, or, you know, when you came into town or I came into town. Because the bottom line is, I'm here to be kind, respectful, build relationships, but my job is for Removery, and that's to give them the best vendors, the best work with the most, you know, cost efficient mindset in, you know, happening. So I might be babbling here, but that's how to answer your question is, you know, yes, everyone is evaluated. No one is just assuring forever. Will you get things on the whim because I know, you know, you'll handle it for me right away in an emergency? Yeah. But if it's something like where I'm doing projects or things like that, or a rebrand or a rollout, like, yeah, I have to do my job. And you know, if you don't win, I'm transparent. Like, I'm going to tell you, you know, hey, you were off here or you were off there. Like, you want to tweak it, I'll give you, you know, a day, but I have to make my decision tomorrow, right? And I think everybody that I work with knows that I do that. And, you know, if they can't tweak it, they can't tweak it. If they can, they can. And, you know, I reevaluate which, you know, comparing works out best.
Even right there, though, just saying that, like, if you don't have any relationship, you don't get that second chance, or that, hey, look at your numbers again, see what you can do here, you're close. Like, that alone, I think, is a huge benefit of having those relationships, because if you're someone that never met them, you're going to get the email saying, you know, we really appreciate you coming in and bidding this project, but we're going with somebody else.
And I agree. That's what I was going to say, not to jump in here, Dan, but on the vendor side, having that, feedback is crucial. And yeah, maybe we can't tweak it, maybe we can't get to that specific number, but it could help us in the future, and how we can improve, in the future. And that's crucial for us. That's huge. And right there, that's a win on both ends, is how I look at it. Again, it may not be the right now, and sometimes in this industry it's not the right now, but that may help us to improve on something that maybe we didn't realize we could tweak to in the future gain more business, better business, and again, a longer relationship in the future.
And anyone that I'm giving that opportunity to be in the bid is someone that I would 100% give you that feedback on. Like, I don't want you to fail. Like, I don't want anyone to fail. Like, why not get the feedback to help you succeed? Well, it might not be with me, but at least going forward, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's pretty important too, I guess, now that you said that, the feedback aspect of it. As a vendor, I try to be able to educate anybody as much as possible. Like, yeah, you may have been in the industry for a long time, you've worked in many places, but not everybody has. Sometimes this is their first job as a retailer, and they don't know what to do. And their boss is like, hey, we need you to do this, this, and this. These are all the vendors you need to get. These are who we use, but they might not know anything. So as a vendor, if you can provide that education, if it's asked for, obviously you don't want to just go around tossing stuff at people like, hey, read this, but and make sure that it's relevant to what they're doing in their job, and it's not just you're talking about yourself, because nobody wants to hear you talk about yourself. Nobody cares how many square feet you have or how fast you can manufacture something. But if I tell you I know what your problem is and this is a possible solution for it, would you mind looking at that? I think people are much more likely to take you seriously, or at least listen to you, because like you understand what their real problems are. So for any vendors listening, I would go that route for sure.
And I'm going to expand on that just a little bit more, Dan, because that's such a crucial point, is that on our end, you talked about, I best comparing apples to apples, and sometimes on our side, what we've realized is retailers think that they're comparing apples to apples. And sometimes we're like, hey, can we just talk about this? Cause can we just have an open conversation? Cause I want to make sure that, we're all on the same page. And when we dissect it, what we realize is we're absolutely not. We might be bidding something completely, let's say a Ferrari versus a Camry, and not everybody is bidding the exact same thing the exact same way. And sometimes it just takes that dive a little deeper into that conversation and having somebody that's open to that, I guess, feedback or conversation to have that. So that's huge. And again, like Dan said, on somebody that may be newer to the industry or, newer in that position, that's been a huge help to them because they didn't realize, especially, let's talk about signage. Not everybody is skilled in signage and all the ins and outs and components of how you can build it. And, that's something that if you can be a help as a vendor, vice versa, to shed some light on that, it's huge. And again, just one step further in growing that healthy relationship. And I think that we've done a really good job at, diving into and uncovering, all the different aspects of the healthy relationship between, client and vendor and why they're so important. I guess I kind of want to just get your input on what is the one most important thing, that you look for in a vendor. If we can just kind of sum it up, like if you're looking for somebody that, what is the one most important thing that you look for?
Oh, good question. I could say it's an easy answer with just saying it right now. With the first thing that came to my mind is trust. I really want to just know that you're not, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on here. Like, I just want to make sure your goal isn't to just screw me over to see how much money you can get out of me. That's not what I want in a partner or a vendor. And I want to be able to trust you that you are, an extended version of me handling the work for my locations. And that honestly, it's just honesty. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. No, you can say that all you want. You can say it twice if you want to say it. I think that's super important. So many people just look at it as dollar signs, and you can't do that if you want to be successful long term.
Yeah. I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want that, and unfortunately for me, it was eye-opening going from the dress barn, the party cities, 800 stores, to a startup. And I was able to see, oh, hey, I'm no longer that $2 billion company. Now I'm here, I went from here to here. So who's still going to be with me? And I'm not going to say true colors, because I don't think it was something that was, malicious or intentional. But I had vendors that stayed with me, and I had vendors that were like, oh, I think because of the, credit this or how much income, net that. And it's like, okay, but are you going to be there for me or not? Like, we're growing. Like, if
Right.
you're on board with me or you're not on board with me, like, and I'm respectful, but don't come to me in 2 years when I have 400, 500 locations and expect me to hand over an account and here, handle my signage now. It's not going to happen. Like, you're either with me or you're not with me. And that's if I'm making $5 or $2 billion.
Do I want to start on the ground with you and help you get from point A to point B and be excited about that, or or like you said, do I not want to jump in because it might not be what you think it is or whatever. You're not that big giant company, and it's so crazy to see where you can, I guess, like you said, the true colors, but what you can get out of vendors and what those true long-term partnerships really mean. And so I think that's such a good example.
And one other thing I wanted to go back to, which you mentioned about tips earlier, and it just came to me when I had first started in the industry, and I was just a coordinator. I had a mentor, and she was in HR, and one of the things she told me was, "Why don't you reach out to, this is like a review time. Reach out to your, the vendors that you're closest with or your primary vendors, and get their feedback on you." And I was kind of like, what? And I did. I reached out to a couple of vendors, and I was like, hey, it's my review time, and I value constructive criticism. It took me a really long time to learn to not be defensive, but I'm always wanting to be better. So when I did that, and I was like, oh, like, I don't answer the phone enough. I'm sorry, right? Like, I didn't realize, like, because I'm so busy and it's going to voicemail, like, and I didn't call you back. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how important that was to you to get that phone call in for something instead of an email. So it was really beneficial. So I really, to all the, the retailers or even the vendor side, like, reach out to your trusted, long-term, healthy client partner and ask them, like, what could I do better? And I think you'd be surprised and you'd be really happy with the results.
Also, if you lose out on bids, do the same thing. Don't just reach out to the ones you won. Always reach out to the ones you didn't win, find out what you maybe did wrong or maybe what they didn't see that they wanted to see. And that's definitely going to help you win more stuff in the future, or at least build better relationships. Word of mouth is huge too. So don't, like, piss anybody off, I guess.
Don't burn the bridge ever.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Don't burn that bridge. No, honestly, overall, I think this is such a great conversation. I think it's going to help a lot of people. It's like you talked about, a real conversation. It's something that in this industry we deal with daily, and having that good relationship can make or break you. So I think that we've so appreciated having this, conversation with you and getting to this point and getting all the tips that we can from you and soak up all your knowledge from being in this industry. So we appreciate you being here. And
yeah, thank you. This was wonderful. It was great to have, a real conversation about it. And, it's something that's important. So it's great that we were able to cover this.
Thanks again, like Rhianon said, and we will talk to you guys on the next episode of the Innovation Room. Thanks for joining us today.
As always, please remember to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to be notified when we put out new content, and leave a comment below if there are any topics you want us to address, or if you have any questions, we'd be happy to address them on the next show. All right, thanks again. Talk to you soon.